I can still hear the sound of her name being called. Emily Turner. The moment the announcer said it, everything around me faded, the applause, the cameras flashing, the proud parents cheering. My hands were shaking, and for a second, I forgot how to breathe. I was sitting there, in the 5th row, surrounded by people who had no idea what it took to get us to that moment. They didn't know the nights I'd stayed awake, terrified of failing her. They didn't know that this wasn't just her graduation, it was mine too. I smiled, but inside, I was trembling. She was about to give a speech. I hadn't even known she was chosen as valedictorian. And when she stepped up to the microphone, the lights hitting her face, I felt my heart tighten. I was proud, of course. But there was something else. Something heavier. A fear I couldn't explain. Because the truth is, my daughter and I hadn't really spoken in months. We lived under the same roof, but it felt like two different worlds. I'd knock on her door, ask how her day was, and she'd say, "Fine." Always just, "fine." I thought I had lost her, the girl who used to fall asleep on my chest after her bedtime stories. The one who once said I was her hero. And as I sat there watching her on that stage, in her cap and gown, I wondered, did she still see me that way? Maybe I should start from the beginning. Maybe you'll understand me better if I tell you where it all began. When Emily was 3 years old, her mother left us. There's no easy way to say it. One morning, she just didn't come back. I remember the note on the kitchen table. I must have read it 100 times, hoping the words would change. "I can't do this anymore." That's all it said. No explanation, no goodbye. Just a sentence that shattered everything I thought I knew about love. I didn't cry, not at first. I was too busy trying to figure out how to tell a 3-year-old that her mother wasn't coming home. That night, I sat beside her little bed, holding her tiny hand, whispering promises I had no idea how to keep. "It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy's here. I'll always be here." And from that moment, my life stopped being about me. I learned to braid hair from YouTube tutorials. I learned which brand of cereal she liked and which cartoons made her laugh. I became a father, a mother, a best friend, and sometimes, a punching bag for her emotions. Money was tight. There were days when dinner was just scrambled eggs and toast, but I'd tell her it was breakfast night, like it was something special. She'd giggle and believe me, at least for a while. I took extra shifts at the garage, working until my hands were numb. I remember walking home under the streetlights, thinking about how tired I was, and then smiling because I knew she was waiting for me at the window, holding her little teddy bear. Every time she ran into my arms shouting, "Daddy," the exhaustion disappeared. For years, that was enough. But then, she grew up. The first sign that things were changing came when she stopped asking me to walk her to school. "Dad, I'm fine. I can go by myself." It sounds small, but to me, it felt like losing something sacred. Then came the teenage years. The arguments. The slammed doors. The silence. She'd look at me like I was from another planet whenever I tried to talk. I'd ask, "How was school?" and she'd roll her eyes. I told myself it was normal. That every teenager goes through it. But deep down, I was scared that I was doing it wrong. I wasn't the kind of dad who could buy her expensive clothes or take her on fancy vacations. All I could give her was time, advice, and love. But those aren't things you can post on Instagram. I remember one fight in particular. She had come home late, and I was furious. I told her I worried, that I needed her to be responsible. She yelled, "You're not my mom. You wouldn't understand." That word, mom, it cut deeper than she knew. I turned away before she could see my eyes. That night, after she went to her room, I sat in the dark, staring at the old photo of her mother on the mantel. For a moment, I hated that photo. I hated that she got to walk away while I stayed to pick up the pieces. But even in my anger, I prayed. Not for her, but for Emily. I prayed that someday, she'd see how much I loved her. Time went on. The fights became fewer, but the silence grew thicker. She started working part-time, saving for college. I wanted to help, but she refused my money. "I'll handle it, Dad." Sometimes I'd hear her crying in her room at night. I'd stand outside her door, hand hovering over the handle, but I never went in. I didn't want to make it worse. The last real conversation we had before her graduation was 6 months earlier. She told me she'd been accepted into a university 3 hours away. I smiled and said I was proud of her, but inside, I felt like someone was taking her away from me. She didn't notice the tears I tried to hide. I told myself I should be happy, that this was what all the years of hard work were for. But there was this quiet ache in me, like the echo of an empty house before you even leave it. So when the graduation day arrived, I wasn't sure what to expect. I put on my best shirt, the one Emily had given me 2 Christmases ago. I ironed it twice. When I saw her walk across that stage, I couldn't help it, the tears just came. She looked so much like her mother in that moment, but stronger. More sure of herself. And then, out of nowhere, they announced her as valedictorian. The audience erupted in applause, but I froze. Valedictorian? When had she done that? How had she managed that without ever mentioning it to me? And then, when she reached the podium, she looked right at me. Her eyes met mine, and for a second, I felt something shift. It was like all those years of distance were standing between us, but something in her gaze told me it was about to break. She began speaking, her voice trembling slightly. "Good evening, everyone. I want to start by thanking my teachers, my friends, and my family." I held my breath. She paused, scanning the crowd. "There's someone here tonight who taught me more than any book ever could." People started turning their heads, trying to see who she meant. And I knew, she was talking about me. My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to disappear and stay forever at the same time. She continued, "He's the reason I'm standing here today. The reason I never gave up, even when things got hard." My throat closed. But before she could go on, something inside me snapped, not in a bad way, but in that "oh my God, this is happening" kind of way. I suddenly saw every moment of our lives flashing before me, her first steps, her first day of school, her teenage tears, the laughter, the fights, the quiet dinners. All of it. Every sacrifice, every fear, every sleepless night, it was all leading to this moment. As she spoke, I felt my soul tremble. And then, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid anymore. Because whatever she was about to say, I knew it came from her heart. Still, there was this tension in the air. This strange, beautiful suspense. Would she thank me? Would she even mention what happened between us? Would she say she forgave me for all the times I'd failed to be enough? The spotlight hit her face, and she smiled, that same little smile she had when she was 5 and told me she'd love me forever. And just as she opened her mouth to say the next words, the crowd went completely silent. I could feel it, something unforgettable was about to happen. She took a breath, and for a heartbeat, the whole auditorium seemed to hold it with her. Then she said it, clear, calm, with that quiet strength she'd always had, even when she didn't know it. "I want to dedicate this moment to someone who never gave up on me, even when I made it really hard to love me." A small wave of laughter rippled through the audience. I felt the corners of my mouth twitch, but I didn't move. My body was frozen, every muscle tight. My hands were gripping my knees, my pulse echoing in my ears. She went on, "When my mom left, I was too young to understand. I just knew something was missing. And for a long time, I thought I needed to fill that space with perfection, to be the best at everything, so no one would leave me again." The room went silent. My breath hitched. I had never heard her talk about her mother before, not like this, not in front of anyone. But what I didn't realize, she continued, her voice trembling, was that there was someone who had already filled that space. Someone who never left. Someone who gave up his dreams so I could have mine. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I let the tears fall. I didn't care who saw. The spotlight made her glow, not just the light, but something deeper. She was radiant, not because of the gown or the honor, but because she was free. She took another deep breath and looked right at me. "Dad, I know we've had our fights. I know I said things that hurt you. Things I can never take back. But I need everyone to know that everything I've achieved, everything I've become, it's because of you." My heart stopped. The audience turned their heads toward me, but I barely noticed. I was back in our tiny kitchen, flipping pancakes for dinner because we couldn't afford much else. I was back in that dark bedroom, holding her after a nightmare, whispering that everything would be okay. I was back in those long nights alone, wondering if love was enough. And now, hearing her say those words, I knew it was. She went on, her voice steady, strong now. "I used to think heroes were people in movies or books. But I've learned that real heroes are the ones who show up. The ones who stay. The ones who work 2 jobs, never complain, and still find a way to make you laugh at the end of a bad day." A collective sigh moved through the room. I could feel people tearing up around me. She smiled through her own tears. "So tonight, this diploma isn't just mine. It's yours, Dad. Every A, every all-nighter, every paper I turned in, it belongs to you. You earned this as much as I did." And then she did something that completely broke me. She held up her graduation medal, the one they give to the top student, and said, "I want to dedicate this to my father, who taught me what strength really looks like." Then she placed it over her head, paused, and slowly took it off. She looked at the audience and whispered into the mic, "He doesn't know this, but I'm about to embarrass him." The crowd chuckled. She walked down the stage steps, still holding the medal, her cap slightly tilted, her eyes never leaving mine. Every step she took felt like a lifetime. People moved aside as she came closer. My throat was tight, my vision blurry. I tried to smile, but all I could do was cry. When she reached me, she stopped, smiled through her tears, and said softly, "This belongs to you, Dad." And then, right there, in front of everyone, she hung the medal around my neck. The audience erupted into applause. People stood up, cheering. I could barely see anything. All I could do was hold her as tight as I could. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Long enough for the world to disappear, I think. It was just me and my little girl, though she wasn't little anymore. When she finally pulled back, she whispered, "I love you, Dad. I always did. I just didn't know how to say it." I wiped her tears, smiled, and said, "You just did." After the ceremony, people came up to me. Strangers. Teachers. Her friends. They all said how lucky she was to have me. But they didn't understand, I was the lucky one. That night, when we got home, we sat on the porch together. She was quiet, staring at the stars. I didn't say much either. Words felt too small for what I felt. Then she turned to me and said, "Do you remember when I was little and you used to say you'd build me wings?" I laughed. "Yeah. I remember. I said I'd build you wings so you could fly higher than I ever could." She smiled. "Well. I think you did." There was a pause, that kind of silence that's full, not empty. The kind that holds everything you've ever wanted to say. I looked at her and said, "You know, I used to think I failed you. That I couldn't be enough." She frowned. "Failed me? Dad, you're the reason I never gave up. You didn't fail, you taught me how to rise." I couldn't hold it anymore. The tears came again, but this time, they weren't from pain. They were from release. I realized, in that moment, that love doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be present. The days that followed were calm. She started packing for college, and the house filled with boxes, laughter, and the sound of old songs from her childhood. Sometimes I'd catch her looking at me the way she used to when she was small, that mix of admiration and affection. It was like time had folded in on itself. One afternoon, she handed me a small envelope. "Don't open it until I leave," she said. I promised I wouldn't. A week later, after she drove off to start her new chapter, I sat on her bed and opened the envelope. Inside was a single photo, me and her at her kindergarten graduation. My hair was messy, my shirt stained with juice, and she was sitting on my shoulders, laughing. On the back, in her handwriting, were just 5 words. "You kept your promise, Dad." I stared at those words for a long time. And then I laughed. Because she was right. I had promised to always be there, and I was. Through every storm, every heartbreak, every silent dinner. I stayed. And in the end, that was what mattered. I went to her room and hung the medal she'd given me on the wall above her desk. It still hangs there. I don't clean it, don't polish it. The ribbon is a little frayed now, but I like it that way. It's real. Like us. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, I sit by that wall and talk to her picture. I tell her about the garage, about the new apprentice who reminds me of her, stubborn, curious, full of dreams. And every time I look at that medal, I remember that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect words. It's about showing up, every single day, even when no one claps for you. I used to think the greatest thing I could do for my daughter was to give her a better life. But now I know, the greatest thing she ever gave me was the chance to be her father. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that sometimes, the people we love don't see our sacrifices right away. Sometimes it takes years, maybe a lifetime. But love, real love, always finds its way back. And when it does, it heals everything. So, to every parent who feels invisible, don't lose hope. One day, your children will see you, truly see you, and they'll understand everything you did for them. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But love has a way of revealing the truth in the most beautiful moments. On her graduation day, my daughter gave me a tribute I never expected. But the real gift wasn't the medal or the applause. It was the look in her eyes, the silent promise that love, once given freely, never fades. And that's all I ever needed.